Yay, we're live. So first of all, I'm super excited to have Nellie, Head of Workplace Transformation at VergeSense. Very excited to have you here in another episode of Coffee with Gable. You are a very well-known person in the remote work industry, so it is an honor to have you. And I wanted to kick off with some questions. So first, maybe tell us a little bit about your role. What does it mean? And we'll take it from here.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor for me to be with you also. So the title Workplace Transformation can seem very original, but it's not something new. We've been talking about change management for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I guess change management applied to a lot of different areas, but really never applied to real estate or workplace, where industry that seem to go on a different path of transformation. And suddenly there was a big disruption that happened, and we needed more people pushing for the changing, writing the playbooks on how we change it, and giving the vision for the future. And so this is what I'm trying to embody in my role. So really being this advisor and guide on the direction we're taking. How do we go from where we were to where we want to get? And how do we make sure we don't hurt anyone along the way and we don't leave anyone behind? Because at the end of the day, workplaces have an impact on employees' retention, employees' health, and employee attraction. So it's a very strong component that company needs to be more focused on, and how workplaces impact their workforce and vice versa. So this is what I'm trying to embody with this role.
And basically, how did your role change, during COVID and past COVID? I'm sure it's a very different situation. So would love to hear from you. What does it mean now?
I love this question because definitely when COVID started, it was obvious to me that we would go into the dark ages of workplaces. Coming from being at the top, like especially in Silicon Valley and around the world, there was this emergence of amazing workplaces, very well designed, caring for the workforce, giving free meals and nap pods, and it was really a very interesting and new and rich time for workplace. And then COVID happened and it put everything in a halt. And so for me, I felt prompt to act because I didn't want to let it go even darker. And I knew that we were on a path to really make a very good evolution of workplace strategy. And there was a disruption that we should turn into an opportunity to do better. There were some changes we wanted to push before COVID, and yet we're facing resistance. I think COVID kind of unblock all of this blockage that we had, and unlock the situation for us to really push for the changes that we wanted. And that's something that I say often. But before COVID, some of the changes that we're talking today were already emerging. The growing population of remote workers, even within traditional companies. The fact that every knowledge worker was mobile, they had a laptop and a smartphone, the technology, the overly presence of technology, and the goal to use our buildings more efficiently and more sustainably. So not continuing to build for no reason, but trying to use what we have already. So all of those elements were there pre-COVID, but COVID just accelerated the trends and the desire to really foster the future that we want to build. And as for me, I think as I'm promoting transformation and I'm following along the industry and our clients and even prospects in the industry that can benefit from the information that we're sharing, because all of the information we're sharing is public. We want to make sure everyone can benefit from the impact reports that we published, from our data insights, from our playbooks. And hopefully at some point we'll be in a state where most companies would have been convinced of the transformation, would have started this transformation, and then we can provide even more on how to best leverage the technology. What are the next roles that you need to hire for? So is it workplace transformation or other roles? And how to continue iterating along the way so we don't get to another stagnant plateau.
Agreed, and I love it. And I think you touched on three really important pillars. So I'd love to hear from you. what were the challenges like during COVID, I would say, with these pillars, and how did you see from your experience with working with so many clients and seeing a very wide range of what were the biggest challenges, basically? I'd love to hear from you because I'm sure a lot of companies face it.
Yeah, obviously. I think the first challenge is that our stakeholders, so the stakeholders behind the workplaces, which are both the people team, the HR team, who are managing the workforce or creating this employee experience, plus the workplace strategy, the real estate team, were the team that were the most heavily impacted by the first layoffs. So the first challenge we had is that there was almost no counterpoint within those companies to talk to, not only from a VergeSense point, but as an industry, many people were now out of a job and had less power to really push the change we were looking for.
Yeah.
So that was the first challenge. And I guess this is why before I joined VergeSense, I created Workplace, and I co-founded it with one of my favorite person in the industry, Perrine, to really be the talent spotlight on all of those amazing and strong leaders in the industry who, for maybe sometime it was the first time in their life they were in between jobs, and yet we didn't want to let them go and live with so much knowledge and expertise and passion. So that was the first thing I did to really reassure both companies and talents that this is a moment we need to go through, but we are going to need HR, people leaders, and workplace and real estate leaders if we want to build a stronger future of work.
Completely agree.
The second challenge was trying to build trust again. Like, there was a lot of questioning on like, why did you spend that much on offices? What is the purpose of offices? Can we just work from home forever? Is it the future? So trying to build trust and confidence in the expertise that all of those talents were carrying, plus the vision that we had, knowing what has been the path of workplace strategy and even people management for the past decade. And the trust was really to show that we need to embrace the changes. We need to be aware of what is happening, and remote working is a real thing. And remote working is providing the process we need to kind of open the walls of the office. And we always talk about like, now we're working for employees beyond the walls of the office. So what happens in the office and outside of the office needs to be curated and designed, and people need to be cared for at any time of their life, not just from 9 to 5 when they are in the office. That was not sustainable. That was not human. And we're not robots. What happened before 9 a.m. will impact heavily what happened after 9 a.m. And what happened at night will impact heavily how I show up the day after. And the office somehow is getting all of this energy, the good, the bad, the average, the strong, the low, and we need to hold it within walls. We need to just open the walls. And this is why we see a lot of heads of real estate and head of workplaces and head of people also stepping up to employee experiences, thinking about how we work, not just where we work, and culture, but more with this idea of like inclusion and welcoming and engaging and having all the red flags to not track if people are not engaged because they overly working, they overwork, but make sure we have the flags to check when they're burning out, when they are online too often, when they don't have time to actually just take a time to step back and breathe and rest. So those are the second one. And I guess the last one is this ongoing fight for remote versus office. Like, it's the last thing that we're trying to like really unblock, because there's a lot of emotion in that fight. And yes, of course, like I love the office, and this is why I'm still promoting for a future within workplaces. But there's no point of forcing anyone to come back. The goal is that we want to go to the office and be with people who want to be there, who have decided to maybe come that day and not bring their laptop, so they can really focus on socializing, brainstorming, making connection, learning about new products that are being launched in the company. And when at times they need something else that the office cannot provide, or is better done at home, in a coffee shop, on the plane, in a different country for a reason or another, we should allow for that, because I think I read it somewhere yesterday, but how can we possibly justify pushing someone away, or losing an amazing talent because they have to spend a month in their home country with their family, or
Definitely.
because right now there's something happening in their life and they need to be spending more time at home than in the office? How can we justify losing those amazing talents and not supporting them with whatever they're going through life? And I think this conversation is coming hopefully to an end, the fight, and we want to collaborate and be like, okay, we want the office, we want home, we want remote, we want travel. Like, let's design the path for all of these options so people can be more fluid and not be labeled as remote workers, in-office workers, and whatever hybrid means, but open
I love
for
it.
fluidity.
And it's interesting, like as a follow-up, like what does hybrid really means, and how do you see, the future of office, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I already can understand a little bit of what do you think, but what are the like, let's say, what is your belief on how the future office would look like, and how is, like, what does it mean to be either a remote first company, or like, I would love to hear what is your thesis?
Thank you so much for the question. First, there's a lot of controversy around the word hybrid, and I hear that it's probably not the best one, but for now it is the best one. We haven't found one that really allow for this multiplicity of option and choices. And this is my really vision for the hybrid model, is that people will have a choice and we'll have multiple choices to choose from and multiple options. So really the plurality of options and choices is what I put under hybrid. It's not,
Okay.
there's not just one model that fits all, but it's going to be this inclusion and this awareness of the different paths that employees will take during their lifetime with a certain company, and how they can move from one path to another without any friction, and making sure that the goal is their growth, their engagement, their commitment to the company, rather than how much hour did they spend on their laptop, how many hours did they spend in the office, how often did they come. Because if they're engaged, if they are dedicated, if they are feeling cared for, they will definitely be part of your company. They will want to show up. They will want to connect with other people. So we should start with like engagement rather than forcing people to be anywhere or do anything.
And I think it's a lot. And by the way, I do think that it relates a lot to result-driven measurement, as opposed to, you are in the office, so there is always like, okay, who stays up late, who shows up early, like it's inevitable, right? And I'm wondering how you see that as well, right? Like basically, because there will be a combination, there will be people that will be always remote, and there will be people that want to come to the office. So I'm wondering, how do you see that as well, and how would you consult companies in tackling this situation?
And I think that will answer also your question of like, what is the future of workplaces. There is this fear of letting go of the control, and it's justified because it has been built over the last decades or 20 years, and this is how we used to do things, and it was working, and doing it differently will take a while to adjust, both on the management's level as well as the employee and individual level. We all need to learn how to be more independent and autonomous. Even if management, and this is why I'm working with companies, even if tomorrow they say, okay, you can work from anywhere, there's a lot of training that needs to happen for managers, how manager can be more supporting to a distributed teams, and removing this expectation of you need to be online from that time to that time, but rather like, this is the places where we will share information, and this is the common deadlines that we will define together. And whenever you decide to meet that deadline, is it at night for you? Is it in the morning for me? Is it like we all agreed on those are the deadline? This is the etiquette of how we show up in the team. and we want you to abide to it because there was a consensus. So I think there's going to be a lot more conversation between managers and their team on like, what do we want? So companies are giving more autonomy to teams. And for the workplaces is really a tool that we want employees and managers to use for the best of their need. And so rarely did I meet any person or company who say, oh, my remote workers, they say they never want to travel. Never. They never want to show up. They never want to meet anyone. Like, I haven't faced that. There will be some people at times for which it will be more difficult to travel. And that's like showing the humanness of all of us. We're going through things in life. So having a compassionate leadership is the key to really create a culture that is inclusive, that is flexible, that is fluid, that is open. And offices are going to be these amazing places when people will come, they will want to socialize, they will be able to use technology to see who is there, what is the program, what is the event happening there, do I want to show up, where should I sleep if I show up and I'm traveling. All of this is going to be part of the workplaces. And I just shared an article where I was featured I was featured on Fast Company yesterday talking about the future of workplaces also. And I was showing this example of using Monday as the best day in the office, which was never the best day in the office. But because somehow we were trying to forget that yesterday was Sunday. Obviously, it was Sunday for all of us. Obviously, we were completely disconnected from the work. And we all have this shared experience. So instead of trying to like forego and deny that reality, let's embrace that reality and make Monday this time where we reconnect together.
I love it.
Share what we did the day before. We maybe going through like body movement, like we are gonna have like this next 5 days maybe more sitting, where we have maybe the weekend was more active. How do we realign our body in that next 5 days time frame or process? And also, how do we re-engage with like, why are we working together? What is the goal of our team? What is the goal of the company? Why is our job important? What is our impact valuable? That's so much easier to then get into the work. We can be super engaged when you have this like awareness of like, we are going through this shared experience. Yesterday was Sunday for all of us.
I love it. I think it's a very good tip. Really good advice for managers that are trying to understand how to create this experience. I think it also goes back to the office would probably more be on the experience side, and people come to meet together and work together. So I wonder if you can either share some tips or best practices for companies that are moving to this new era.
Yeah. So I'm starting to write a playbook on how to really design the workplace of the future. And for me, there's 4 key areas. The first one is your reception, or even reception is not a word that feels very interesting, but it's more your welcoming area. How do you welcome people as they come through the door? And even before they enter the door, how do you give them the tools, which are the technology and the information, to decide to come that day? So the welcoming corner is like a first impression when you meet someone new, even when you meet someone again and again and again, like that first impression of having someone welcoming you, having someone sharing information about who else is there in the office. Can I connect you with anyone? Can I create? Can we use technology to like connect you for coffee with someone new? There's so much we can do at this welcoming phase. And receptions, sometimes they were very well done and you felt this warm welcoming, and sometimes they were very cold. It was more like the security passage from non-employee to employee. This is definitely not what we want to do in the future. The second one is somehow workplaces were deprived of new life because we needed also to kind of like close the walls to just be for employees. We thought that we needed to like have them in a bubble. There was not new life, and new life comes with innovative ideas, creativity, making connection between 2 different things. And companies are being more aware that more aware that knowledge workers really need this inspiration from the otherness to really be able to nourish their own idea and inspiration and aspiration. So the second corner is that most workplaces in the future will have this hybrid area that is for local knowledge workers that might not be employed at your company, for your other stakeholders, your partners, your users, your fan base. Like, how amazing that we have to open the door for them. They are the best supporters. They are the ambassadors of the brand. What if they were working from our place? Like, how amazing it would be for employees and not employees to meet and share the love they have for the brand and brainstorm ideas on how we can do better. So the second one is really having this open area for more than just employees. With the fourth one is how we meet. So being more intentional on how we meet. Yeah. Meeting room is really a misnomer because people were coming into a room, each behind their laptop. They were not meeting. Sometimes you don't even look at other people in the eyes because you all look at your laptop or at a screen. So being more intentional about what is the purpose of our meeting. And if really we want to meet face to face, let's have no screen, no laptop, no distraction, so we can really create on a human level. Because countless studies have shown that people teams are a lot more successful when they have beforehand this trust between human beings, when they have a connection, when they have a relationship. So we need to use the office to create that relationship. That is a little harder to do on the laptop because we are overwhelmed with work, and so we are very transactional in the way we approach others. I need this from you, you need this from me, this is how it changed. When is the time? Like the offsites used to be a time where we would connect on a human level. And Google, about a year ago, they say, oh, the offsite will be on-site now. And yeah, we need to use the office to meet, to play together, to build trust, to build relationship, to be more intentional in like how do we connect outside of just working together? So there's going to be a lot more of meeting intentional, and meetings come with human beings. So we love being around the campfire, but like being around food and being around art and being witness to a certain show or a certain performance or listening to a certain talk or conversation is how we come together, and then we branch out to more conversation. So there will be more of these experiences, if we want to call, but with the intention to really allow people to connect. And the last one is very much recharge. So those are the four corners that our workplaces will have to really embody in the future. Is when I'm at home, and we've seen the numbers, like I'm more prone to burnout. I'm more prone to have no limit between what is work and what is not work, because everything is happening at home, and I'm eating. More people are reporting eating in front of their laptop than ever before in the office, which is counterintuitive. But yeah, at home is just ongoing. And when you go to bed, my bed is right behind me. Like, when did I have time to get dressed? Maybe I don't even get dressed anymore. I wake up and I go in front of my laptop. So the office is actually going to be the place where you're going to go to recharge. Because again, knowledge workers, this is the value that they bring. Like, they really need time off to allow for an idea to sit in, or maybe to really have no disruption, to really kind of see the path for a certain code line or a certain business process or a certain new project. And recharge is going to be so important to really nourish those knowledge workers in achieving what they do best, which is coming with innovation, coming with new ideas, being forward thinking. And so hopefully the office will be that place where people go to take a break from work.
I love it. And let's maybe talk about the challenges. So which challenges? So burnout is 100% one of them. It's written all over. That's no brainer, right? But what else? What else should managers keep in mind when they have remote teams?
Yeah. So I think we all in love with Darren Murph at GitLab, but definitely they've been having this amazing servant leadership for the entire world in sharing the best practices on remote work and how to manage remote teams. So those are the tips that we are able to really implement tomorrow because of that amazing knowledge and past that they built for us. So having a strong etiquette, having a consensus of how we work together, moving toward asynchronous collaboration rather than being on calls all the time, because with burnout, there's also the Zoom fatigue that we've talked about. And the last one is like, be flexible enough. Like, you're human beings, they will go through things in life. So make sure like even the best playbook can be rewritten, because those are new employees. This is a new generation. Your employees are maturing in their life phase, and so they may be getting to the next phase. So I think those are the 3 tips that we're learning from GitLab. For me, I would say that we're not talking enough about the lack of engagement for newcomers, like so onboarding for new employees. But again, I think new numbers have been showing that those are the people who are more likely to leave your organization within their first year of employment because they haven't been engaged. And so I don't think that it's so much more difficult remotely than in office to engage. It both requires intention, and it both requires to create on a deeper human level than just the working level. And again, I think remote, maybe we think like, oh, we're just going to exchange information about work and we won't have time to schedule just a chat. I think we feel overly conscious that, how can I schedule just a chat? Like, I need to we've been told that we need an agenda for all of our meetings. Actually, there's meetings that should have no agenda. And the best meetings should have no agenda, because everything that is on the agenda can be solved by emails, by documentation, by having stronger information places. So I guess it's why we're seeing an emergence of like, there's not a real name, but like meetings entertainers. So people who will entertain the crowd, and maybe subtly they will actually encourage people to share more of their personal life, share where their fears, their hopes, their ambition, their vision, their love for the company, or their new arrival in the company and not being sure how they feel about it. So those are actually the purpose of meetings. So I think on that one, it's much easier to stay connected remotely when you have a history with the brand, with the other employees, with your teammates, with your manager, and it's much harder for newbies. So whatever it is it remote, is it hybrid, is it in office, we need to be more intentional, is really engaging this population, because they are the youth. It doesn't mean they're the younger, like you can hire senior, but they are the youth of the company, because they're coming with fresh ideas, which they're coming with a new perspective. So we need to make sure that we design their first year with us with different like catch up and milestone and like flags, red and green, on like how engaged they are, to really bring them to success, to a successful path within the company.
Love it. I completely understand what you're saying. I think especially now when you onboard new employees, if you don't see them, like usually in one of our coffees, basically somebody said that previously what you need to do is like, you're selling an office, right? So it was Brandon, the chief people officer of Live Brand. But now they're selling the culture. And I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that that's really much aligned with what you're saying, because that is the critical mass. Another question that I have is about flexibility, and you mentioned flexibility, but how does it translate flexibility to office flexibility? I'm wondering your thoughts here, and what's the future there?
So I think, again, on that, I don't think that there's anything really new. I think that, again, there was an emergence of a trend before COVID that we were paying attention to, or not too much, or we didn't want actually to focus on. But yeah, the integration of third places within a real estate portfolio. People are on the go, are traveling. So again, we have this, like, it's not even a remote population. It used to be the traveling population for certain teams that were traveling more often. We were giving them a WeWork card already, or we were giving them access to a platform where they could book a space wherever they would be. and yet we would then consider it under our office experience.
Mm-hmm.
But for this population that is traveling often, the experience that they have in the WeWork is impacting how engaged they are with us, because we are asking them to travel for work. So I think this trend is being accelerated, and heads of real estate and head of workplace and heads of employee experience are trying to really bring under their umbrella what is the experience within third places. How can we make sure that people have access to the platform where they can find spaces whenever they need them? And how do we also create a stronger relationship with those providers, so what they provide, their service and their level, their standard of servicing individuals is at the same level of what we offer in our offices, because some of our employees will be impacted with the experience that they have there.
Understand.
I know that at Stripe we had engaged with WeWork to really start creating this conversation. And it was new, but not so new. WeWork was really trying to go after enterprise and corporate. And today there's so much amazing offers. There's Gable and there's Cody, and there's like so many that we know. And we want to push them to grow even bigger and expand, so they can be a real partner to us on the end user side.
Love it. I agree. Final question, and I would say more personal question. What are your best tips for productivity, well-being? How do you manage this in this time or going forward? What have you learned, and tips to share with the audience?
Thank you so much for this question. I think I'm like anyone else. I'm in the school of life, so I'm a student and I'm learning. And I think I'm even, because of this amazing role that I have to be a leader and sharing my knowledge and expertise, I'm really trying to walk the talk and push myself. So I had conversation with Darren Murph again on async collaboration, and I was telling him I'm not so good at it. I know we need it, but I'm not so good because I love being on video with people. And I forced myself to really stop for a couple of months and having no meetings, to really find ways to push everything to our documentation. And then after that, I was able to find my balance. And that's a conversation I had with one of our clients is, unless you try, it is going to remain very difficult. And so if you really know that you need to train your managers to be better at it, really lead by example, and maybe have pilot among managers and among the executive on what does it mean to have fewer meetings, and what does it mean to block time for everybody to recharge at the same time, or have no meetings day. How long does it take for you to really be convinced or really be in the flow of it's working? And then when you know that, then you allow for your employees that same time to learn. We are learning. We just need to have the room and the time for us to learn through it. So that's the first tip, is first lead by example. So force yourself, pilot among a safe group, and then based on your lesson learned, then deploy it to the larger workforce. The next tip is have a better self-discipline. And I know that I looked up to Google at the very beginning of COVID. They start just sharing so much workshop around self-resilience, connect and disconnect, taking time off. Because again, this is not how we grew up. It's not natural for us to be in this hybrid role. So we all have to learn. And we all have to get new tips. So I listened to some of their workshop and then from other places. But having this discipline of when I disconnect, I really disconnect. And even though I have FOMO or have a lot more work to do, that time where I will be away from my laptop, it's working right there. So I'm actually not disconnecting, but I'm allowing time for me to really digest information and give it more thought before I perform. Honestly, it's all about performance. Being on the camera or writing, it's performance, and we don't have enough time rehearsing. So really taking having this self-discipline of I need time to recharge. I need time to do other things. Again, it goes back to the second corner that will be in the workplaces. I need to be exposed to different things if I also want to keep nourishing myself. So taking the weekend, taking the day at night, like having really dwell into our hobbies, or learning about new skills, or reading different books, but like exposing ourselves to different things will allow us to come up with new ideas and a fresher eyes and a younger eyes.
I love it.
And the last one is really like, we are human beings. We all have something to learn from someone else, and we all have something to teach. So let's continue this flow. There's no goal of retaining any information. Anything you've learned along the way can benefit me. And I think LinkedIn has taken this role of being this coffee shop, like this open. We hear drops some other information, and that exposes us to other ways of thinking, to what people are working on. We're talking about building in public, but really like sharing information, because this is how we all learn and grow with each other.
Thank you so much. It is very, very, very good advice, multiple advices, actually. Nellie, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed it a lot.
For me.
And would love to have you, hopefully in person, in one of our Gable spaces. Thank you so much for everything. I'm sure all of viewers enjoyed it. And we will be in touch. Thank you for being an amazing guest.
Thank you so much, Liza.
Bye.
Bye.